So hello again, everyone. There's a little bit of repetition of the formality just for the sake of this recording, and welcome to those that are doing this at a different time. So my name is Nancy Sposato, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm the manager of the IRCF program in Nambucca, Leeton and Junee. And I'm going to do a bit of a presentation right now in regards to what's happened in the Valley in regards to the IRCF program. And Ali Buckley, the local Nambucca facilitator, will co-facilitate this section with me. So I'm going to kick off with an acknowledgement to country. Yeah, so it was fantastic to see in those notes earlier that awareness of Gumbaynggirr country and that we're working on this country together. And I think it is an important factor in the work we do, very important factor in the work we do here. And it's been very strong in the IRCF work that has happened to date, which has been fantastic. So I'd like to take this opportunity to acknowledge the traditional owners of the land in which we meet today, the Gumbaynggirr people. And I pay my respect to elders past, present, and emerging. Unfortunately, we've had a loss in the Aboriginal community over the weekend, and we pay our respects and send our deepest sympathies to those who are grieving. So I'm just going to share my screen. So this image actually was taken at the Nambucca Yiffy a little while ago, but it's a lovely image of young people coming together. So I'm just going to go through our agenda today. So the first hour, as I mentioned, we're going to go through general IRCF program, what we fund, just a bit of a reminder, and the IRCF focus areas, the Nambucca Valley, some evaluation findings, investment to date in the Nambucca Valley, so you all can be across that, and the purpose of the roadmap and the desired outcomes from these online sessions and the review. In the second hour, we'll go into breakout rooms and we'll attend to the goals. So the goals that were stated back in 2020, and we want to make sure that you're satisfied with the current goals and that the activities that are mapped out that you still feel that's what's needed to achieve the goals. Then there'll be, we'll let you know how continued feedback into the roadmap, how that's possible. I'm going to give you a bit of a sneak peek at the digital hub. So as part of the program, we're developing a digital hub. So it's called the IRCF Digital Hub. And that is where all the roadmaps for all the communities, so when I say all the communities, I mean Nambucca Valley, Junee, Leeton, and even in the South Coast, there's more IRCF communities. That is where all the roadmaps are going to be housed. So that gives access to all the communities to see what other ideas, what else is happening in the other communities. And I'll show you that. And then we've got the IRCF evaluation that's coming up in the Nambucca Valley, which I'm sure many of you or the granted organisations are aware of. And then we finish with some feedback and thanks. So the IRCF program and how it supports Nambucca Valley NFPs. So this is just a recap of the key areas of the program. So the program is focused on locally governed not-for-profits. A key part of the program is the local facilitator. In the Valley, we have two, so Ali Buckley and Patricia Walker. Community roadmaps. So this roadmap that we're looking at today, that's a key part of the program where we bring the community together to really discuss what's needed for the sector and to work on that into the future. Funding, supporting collaboration, this new piece, which is the digital hub, toolbox funding, and ongoing evaluation, which happens every 6 months. And that is for grant, so organisations that have been funded through the program to date. And we also have another group which are called external stakeholders, and they're I guess other members of the community that aren't necessarily connected to not-for-profits, who can give just sort of an overarching perspective on the Nambucca Valley. So you've probably seen this before. These are the priority areas. This is what, so as you all know, IRCF focuses on organisational, how organisations function, the management, the business of running a not-for-profit. And, you know, that's quite a broad umbrella. So the way the program manages that is that we basically break that down into 4 different sections. And so when applying for IRCF funding, an application has to respond to one of these areas, and it has to respond to the roadmap. So people, developing leadership capabilities, a renewed sense of community spirit and fostering skill development to create strong organisations that bring together various leaders, groups and residents. Activities under people might include volunteer recruitment and training, encouraging inclusivity, time management, leadership development, digital inclusion, mentoring. While I go through these priority areas, I just want you to have a think about if there is an area that is of particular interest to you, because when we go into breakout rooms later on, we're actually going to go into rooms that are specific to these areas. So if there is a room, like an area that you've got specific interest in, I'd like you to post that in the chat. We're going to do our best. We can't put everyone in the same room, so we'll do our best to allocate you to the room that is of interest to you. The other area, systems and structures. So example activities, legal structures, compliance and governance, financial management, communications and measurement, board skills development and financial literacy, IT security, HR and performance management. Sector efficiencies, so that's about partnership development and management, collective impact training, peer-to-peer mentoring, lead agency support, networking and sharing platforms, forming an NFP working group. Investing in strategy, provides tools and measures that support and enable the sustainability of organisations well into the future. So user-centred design, grassroots innovation and creativity, developing and embedding a framework for change, purpose and vision development, strategic planning and monitoring, and revenue strategy. So also just remembering, if any questions come up in this throughout this presentation, please feel free to send a question to Claire in the chat. So some evaluation findings. So as I mentioned earlier, all the funded organisations do every 6 months, they do an online survey, as well as they're interviewed by an external evaluation group who basically ask them a list of questions. And these are some of the findings that have come out of those interviews and self-assessment tools. So what success have you had? New staff member, her confidence is boosted. Others know we have an admin person, so they go to her. Engaging a media consultant has freed up the project officer to work on projects. New staff member, that was 2 organisations mentioned that. Community capacity building, significant fundraiser pitch, expanded service delivery, graduated students from Cert 3 in endangered Aboriginal language program. More successes, supported other organisations with grant applications, held workshops and NAIDOC events, people working together to create a shared vision for the project. We reopened the organisation and a growing program delivery. We rebranded to be more inclusive of the whole community. The positive community reaction has been overwhelming. New partnerships created with community groups and NFPs, impact on broader community, example tourism. What are you planning to do next? To apply for BLURF funding and going for job creation funding next. So this last round of evaluation data was collected in, where are we now? It would have been October of last year. So just in terms of that going into, no, there was March of this year, but that BLURF, so there was also a data collection in October of the year before. So hence the BLURF funding application is mentioned there. New program for employment of offenders, engaging consultant to run training, governance project. We are looking at forming a group to talk about values in the community and explore how communities can have shared values and what this might look like. This would also help people to be accountable for their actions. We've applied for capital funding, also need to generate ongoing funding, strategic plan, increased collaboration, partnerships, wellbeing festival, progressing the website, asking stakeholders what they want on the website, a business plan, marketing and business development, apply for funding for admin support, holding a community open day. And what barriers might there be? So this is quite an interesting one as we review the map in terms of needs. The weather, as some of our projects are outside, so the garden related projects, so the weather is a barrier. Change takes time for it to succeed. Funding and resources, 5 organisations have mentioned that as a barrier. Whether things fit our purpose. Reservations about project sustainability, stewardship and governance. Issues need to be resolved. A strong partnership with the council could help. So in terms of evaluation findings on investment, so to date, there's 60,000 that went towards the startup grant, the Hand in Hand project. Round 1, there was 259,000 in investment. Round 2, there was above 309,000, a total of 629, just above 629,000. And in terms of the remaining partnership grants funding, you can see here we've got the 308, just above 380,000 that there'll be another grant round that will open next year, unless there is need before then. And we also have, so in the toolbox funding, so that's a separate bucket of funds that is very focused on collaborative projects. That has none of that has been spent to date, and that's still sitting at 50,000. So in terms of priority areas, the main investment has been in people. So Ali, I'll pass on to you to talk about investment to date.
Thank you. So investment to date, I'll try to not ramble on too much. So we had a startup grant that has been auspiced by Lifetime Connect, and I can talk personally to this one because I'm actually the project manager. I was engaged as a project manager before I got this job. So we're putting together a website and hoping that not-for-profits will be engaged in it, but also businesses and other community groups. We hope it's really informative and inclusive, and it creates community through a virtual kind of hub for lots of things to happen. And we'll be working alongside BICEP, who also have that Blur funding to develop it further into a social enterprise and employ people and do training. So it's going to be, I hope it's going to be pretty amazing. We've done the branding and we've done the site plan, and we're just about to get quotes from web developers and hopefully start development soon. So that's one thing. Murabai Aboriginal Language and Cultural Cooperative, they got most of these round one grant applications were about strengthening organisations internally, and going into round 2, we see that more collaboration is happening. So Murabai engaged a facilitator to help them through their governance and strategic and business plans. And it's been really positive for them. They said it's great to see things from a different angle. It was good to come together, the Murabai board and staff, as we're all here for a common goal. We came together as a group and nutted out. Where do we take it from here? How do we diversify? It's good to have a vision and direction of where we're going now. We all walked away refreshed and looking forward to the future. So now it's more about them implementing the plans that they've come up with. The Nambucca Valley Phoenix has done their draft strategic plan. Their funding was to develop a 5-year strategic plan to turn the Phoenix into a sustainable social enterprise, and so, get more involved with the NDIS scheme and do training and micro enterprise development. So they've done the first draft of their strategic plan, and they're now kind of more looking at, what their vision and mission is as a not-for-profit organisation a bit more, and how they get tax deductible status and those sorts of things. So Pippa has said that this plan is the backbone of what we want to achieve as an organisation, which is what governance and strategic plans are great for. They keep you focused and on track. Jan Mili Burunga, they've got on track with policies and procedures, and they've also delivered cultural awareness training, and they engaged a consultant to redevelop a communication strategy, and their presence on Facebook has really, you can see that their presence and branding and identities, you know, really strengthened. Alethea, they've done a business plan, and they've had a positive flow and effect. Using parts of the plan, like the mission statement, they've actually leveraged $58,000 to run programs for kids this year. They've also cleaned up their administrative systems and processes and gone online with things so that people can register for programs and pay online. So that's cut out a lot of administration, and that's what the funding's really helped them with. Mimi have employed a young Aboriginal woman who's to help Patricia with admin. Yeah, so that's been a really rewarding thing for Mimi Aboriginal Corporation. Mujai Gamma have the wonderful garden project, and you know, they've this bringing together of young people and elders and revitalizing cultural knowledge and handing it on is such an inspiring project, and has so many flow-on benefits for so many different parts of the community, for health and you know, employment and culturally appropriate sort of employment, and hopefully that can go on. And the young people did a fundraiser. They ran an event which helped them to engage more community members and also learn about fundraising and event management. The Nambucca Senior Citizens Club have pulled together a fantastic newsletter which has got a lot of engagement. They get new community organisations wanting to be a part of it every week, and they've delivered. They go and they have a partnership with Lifetime Connect, who deliver to 150 Meals on Wheels recipients. So yeah, they've actually created a lot of traction, and the newsletter is becoming a really important communication strategy for our elders in the community. The Barraville Innovative Social Enterprises Precinct Incorporated, which is BICEP, have been doing a lot of work on their own governance and getting it. They had got money for scoping governance project to look into different governance models, and they're working on their own governance and really strengthening that, and then hoping to roll out governance training next year to other not-for-profit organisations once that they've embedded everything that they need to do and, you know, done all the scoping. And the Nambucca Valley Youth Services have employed a young man to, oh, sorry, not a man. Deirdre, how do I say it? It's a non-gendered person to work in their office administration. They're studying Cert 3 in business, and so they're getting training and work experience. And they're also in the process of developing a fantastic website. So they're going along really well. So round 2, the Barraville Community Development Association Incorporated are looking at how the community uses the Barraville Pioneer Community Centre so that then they can work towards its future use. So they're sort of doing a scoping project on it. Mimi are continuing to employ a young local administrative person for a second year to provide support to the organisation. Mujai Ganmar are continuing their trainee coordinators in the Ural Garden project. The Nambucca Heads Men's Shed Incorporated are scoping renewable energy to help other not-for-profit organisations in the Nambucca Valley consider whether renewable energy is a great way forward to save on costs, which I hope it is, because it's also great for the environment. Nambucca Valley Council, Valor Beach Community Association was successful in getting funding to put together 3 newsletters. So the Scott's Head Wave, I think it's the the sort of be the Nambucca community newsletter, and also with the Valor newsletter, and this is auspiced by Nambucca Shire Council, and so that we have like this one spot where a newsletter, so that they can share information and share it out amongst the whole valley, which hopefully brings the valley together in a more, rather than being in little silos. Nambucca Valley Phoenix Limited are strengthening the capacity of the organisation to deliver on their new strategy and aspiration to become a sustainable social enterprise by strengthening their brand and supporting staff. So that's really going to support Pippa to really, you know, start acting on their strategic plans and marketing plans that they've been doing. Shore Track, which I hope everybody knows who these organisations, they're sort of, from what I understand, an arm of Backtrack. So they're developing an internal operational management system so that they can look at, you know, what capacity they have, whether they can take on other projects, and, you know, just like a really computer driven, I mean, an app sort of, or not an app, but a way to really, really manage what's going on in their organisation internally without actually having to employ a lot more staff. And they've also managed to leverage some funding from Backtrack to support that. So they've leveraged another $30,000 to go towards Jill's role, which is great. Unkia, local Aboriginal Land Council, they're developing a cultural competency induction package, which will be fantastic. And I can see we'll have so many offshoots. So they're engaging a lot of Aboriginal organisations into this one project. So it's a really great collaboration piece. So that's what's been funded to date.
Super, thanks, Ali. So Ali did, in her summary there of funded organisations, mentioned leverage, and we just wanted to touch on this in terms of, for a couple of reasons, in terms of, the benefits of the program being in the valley, but also the benefits for, the funded orgs in regards to the seed funding that's come through the IRCF program. So leverage, and what we mean by that, is where funds granted by IRCF encourage activity that creates further funds or investment. So, for example, this, there was considerable leverage due, through the BLURF funding. So, I guess as local facilitators, and then, as we learn more about the not-for-profit sector, we can advocate for the needs of not-for-profits, and I guess be having conversations with other stakeholders in the community to connect organisations and connect needs to support further funding applications. So this definitely happened with Nambucca Valley Council and the BLURF funding that they received in terms of telecommunications, and for BICEP. So BICEP seeked further funding in regards to the digital hub that was seeded through the startup grant through the IRCF program. In regards to the Nambucca Valley Council application, post bushfire, I guess I was quite curious about how the not-for-profit sector was coping. And I did get feedback that telecommunications and disruption and a lack of telecommunications was really a barrier for some organisations to continue functioning. And so, that informed conversations I was having with Rhiannon, Treasurer Rhiannon at Council. Now, in regards to seed funding, so a couple of examples are Alithia that Ali mentioned, as well as Mujagama. So I guess, that initial funding really enables confidence to seek further funding, and also it evidences to other funders that that a project is solid. And so, as well as that, this week we got confirmation that as part of Shore Track's application to IRCF, we also did reach out to Backtrack to offer a co-contribution to support Jill, in that we're just very aware that voluntary hours, though yes, are needed in orgs, can really lead to burnout in organisations. So we asked if they were open to a co-contribution, and they have this week confirmed a co-contribution towards that application, which is fantastic. So on top of that, FRRR has also partnered with the Australian Rural Leadership Fund through the BLURF funding, and were successful in a leadership program being rolled out in the Valley. So 24 participants in the Nambucca Valley will be able to access that leadership course, which will hopefully start to roll at the beginning of the new year. We're just keeping an eye on it in regards to COVID. And it won't just be for the not-for-profit sector. It will also be open to other stakeholders in the community, because there does need to be kind of, for most effectiveness, there does need to be collaboration between certain people and certain bodies to really enable momentum for projects and sustainability moving forward. So I think that is a considerable amount of leverage for the Valley, which is fantastic. So just in terms of the purpose of the roadmap. So the purpose of the roadmap is to identify local not-for-profit needs that align with the IRCF program priority areas and the program's intention to strengthen how not-for-profit organisations function. So the roadmap needs to articulate the steps required to guide the sector in achieving the shared goals. And from the outcomes that we hope for the review process is the Nambucca Valley not-for-profit sector effectively working together and contributing to a strategic vision that aims to support their sector's sustainability into the future. Some shared clarity for the Nambucca Valley not-for-profit sector on the capacity building goals and the steps required to improve sector resourcing and efficiency. Increased confidence in the Nambucca Valley not-for-profit sector to connect online. Improved understanding in the Nambucca Valley community about the Nambucca Valley IRCF program and investment to date. I'm just going to stop sharing. So that concludes the presentation element of this meeting, but I'm just going to hand over to Claire to see if any questions came about.
No questions yet.
So just take a moment. If any questions have presented, please feel free to send them through to Claire so we can attend to them. All good, Claire?
Yep.
Super. Okay, so that ends the recorded section of our meeting. So those watching after this event, please feel free to reach out to Ali Buckley or Patricia Walker. Also in the description of this video, there'll be their contacts, so you can reach out in regards to sharing your ideas on the roadmap and giving your feedback.